Just a question on the cards again. The cards were found on the eve of election at ECN's office. There's a photo of a box of cards. At what point was ECN then planning to distribute those cards? If we were here past 3, past 4, and those cards, let me not speak false things. At what point was ECN going to distribute those cards if it was on the eve of the elections?
Okay, more questions?
Yes, I just have a follow-up to the question on trust and transparency. You said that you wanted to have information to be able to relay the information to the public, but then why did you keep silent in that case? Do you think keeping silent was transparent? And also today, we had the media whereby Mr. Sharma saw us and he ran into his office and closed the door. Does that mean that is transparency? I also wanted to find out what happens to those polling stations that announced their results today as well as yesterday. Does that mean they will recount, or what happens to those results?
I think the questions, especially the last 2 questions you asked, we actually dealt with them in the chairperson's statement, which will be availed to you.
But let me just elaborate a bit on that. Your question is what happens to those polling stations that have already counted? They have counted. They have pasted the results, they have counted, they have announced, they have pasted the results and uploaded the results. So they are done.
There was a question on, I think,
There was a question
on the distribution of cards. I think I remember this question was asked on the first during the first press briefing that the Commission held after the opening of the polls. I think it was clearly indicated, or perhaps even in the CEO's response, that these voters were telephonically contacted to come collect these cards. And the condition for them to be given the card with the corrected voter registration number was for them to hand over the old card, so they don't have 2 cards.
Sorry, does that then mean that that glitch only affected the Khomas region?
No, there were other regions also, but not the entire region. It was in selected constituencies. So those cards were also sent to the constituencies for distribution in the constituency.
Okay. So earlier you said that you guys have already started planning on extending the election to Friday and Saturday, and that's what you were planning on approaching the group of opposition, or the group of parties with. If you guys had already known of the plan earlier in the day, why is it only being communicated to the media and to the public this late into the day, right? Secondly, what is the ECN's plan in case of this group of parties not accepting the election being extended, considering that they already want to declare it null and void, right? And then thirdly, since these press briefings are only being aired, or was initially only planned to being aired on platforms like NBC, how was the ECN planning on communicating with households and people who don't necessarily have access to stuff like radio or like television? Thank you.
Your question of that we're only communicating late in the day. You must remember that this is not just the type of decision that you take and you go out and announce. So we had to do a consultation. We had to first contact our regional electoral officers, our returning officers, to assess the situation on the ground and to ascertain if there aren't any other polling stations that ran out of ballot papers, how many they were. So reasonably, it is not possible that that could have been done in the morning. And then after that, we also had then to consult regarding the proclamation by the president. So it's not a reasonable expectation that we should have given that information in the morning. It would have been premature.
On the aspect of acceptance of results, surely the Electoral Act provides mechanisms which an aggrieved contender can explore in the event that they are aggrieved by the announcement that the Commission will met out. So we will deal with it as and when it comes.
Okay, I think we've answered all your questions. We are now coming to
one last question. Ms. Elsie, what do you make of criticism that this is a deliberate attempt by the ECN to sabotage elections? Number one, you've been advised against deregistering NEF and appealing that court case, and yet you went ahead and lost it. And now we've seen what has been a colossal failure from the ECN to conduct an election for which they had 4 years to prepare. What do you make of that?
My response is the burden of proof is with the one that is alleging. We've come to the end of the press briefing and we thank you very much.